play some hockey. Tonight. Energetic, passionate, and savvy. Gouche Live. Brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gouche.
Yes, sir. It's Wednesday. It's Hump Day. Hump Day. Usually we do Hump Day performers, but today we've got a special guest. We're going to go trade them, sign them, or throw them out. And we'll be doing that with our great guest, Josh Britton. This kid's been around me for a while. He's helped us with the Ice Hockey Classic. He's helped us with Stop Concussions, of course, now with our mental health platform. And he's still playing hockey, and he's over in Vimmerby, Sweden, and he's playing for the Vimmerby Hockey Club, the Tigers. Go, Tigers, go. Go, Tigers, go. So we'll talk to him about that. I wanted to talk to Josh just about, we've talked to David Rutherford, who was over in Europe and things kind of fell apart, and he's retired now and he's coming home. And I just want to talk to Josh about the fact that playing hockey in Europe and your skates taking you around the world. As you know, my big statement through Paul Stewart is my skates were my passport to the world. I got a chance to see things I probably wouldn't have seen had I not played ice hockey, as you know it, over in Europe. So I'm excited about talking to Josh about that and his experiences. But before we bring him up, I want to talk a little bit about Chicago versus Florida. Paul Rosen, you lucky son of a gun. Your team wins again, 3-2. It was a really close game. Larkinen is being unstoppable. He is by far a candidate for the Vezina. No, not really, but he's keeping that team in it, no question. But then the gentleman that is looking at the MVP title is Patrick Kane, another 2 assists last night. And I think they are looking pretty good. They're staying in a playoff spot, which none of us thought they would be. So let's just see how that turns out as it goes forward. Hey, listen, Philadelphia Flyers continue on this downhill spin. They just can't seem to get lucky. They just can't seem to win. They're 3-0 with a loss to the New Jersey Devils, 4-3. And even though they had 33 shots, they just can't seem to buy a goal here. So even though it was a 4-3 win, they need the goals at the time when they need them, and they haven't been getting that. Nashville over our good friend Val. Detroit Red Wings, 2-0 loss to the Nashville Predators. And there's talk about Nashville Predators. Are there going to be a fire sale there? Will be a few players leaving that. And, of course, Detroit is 3-6-1 in their last 10 with 2 losses in a row. Nobody expected much from Detroit. They are an entertaining club. They're very similar to me, the Ottawa Senators. They're young, dynamic. You know, Larkin is absolutely a bona fide superstar. I think they're going to go far in the next couple of years. So stick with it, Val. You will make the playoffs, I believe, in the next 5 years. We'll see what happens there. Dallas versus Tampa Bay. I watched it. 2-1 Tampa. 26 shot. Vasilevsky was again fantastic. And I think that they are poising to return to the Stanley Cup is what I believe. And let's see how that turns out. So this has been Vasilevsky has started 12 games in a row. Wow, a franchise record. All right, enough about that. We'll talk to Val a little bit as we end off this segment. We're going to talk to, of course, about the games tonight. But first, let's get to Josh Britton, all the way from Vimmerby. Yes, Vimmerby, Sweden. You look on the map, there's Sweden, there's Vimmerby. The Vimmerby hockey. Go, Tigers, go. Josh Britton.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Oh, Josh, thanks for taking time. I know you guys are getting into close to playoffs, I would assume, right now, right?
Yeah, we're getting ready to ramp up here. We've had basically 2 weeks off, and we're going to be starting the best of 3-game series on Tuesday of next week, and it's for all the marbles, so we're going to try and win.
Listen, of course, you heard me talk a little bit about the NHL. I know you don't get a lot of chances to see the NHL over there. Who's your favorite team? Who do you follow when you follow?
To be honest with you, yeah, like you said, it's been hard to follow over here with the time change and the difference. But right now, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Toronto. I think this could be their year. if all goes well, they make some good moves. I think they've got what it takes. They made some good acquisitions, some solid defenders, some key pieces to the puzzle that they've needed to make. And, I haven't really been with my hometown Leafs for the past couple of years because they've really been struggling, but I think they're giving me some hope. And I know that the Torontonians, during the quarantine could really use that. So it'd be nice to see them pull through and get the job done.
Fantastic. Before we get into your career, a very successful career, and where you are now, and we'll talk a little bit about Australia too, and your beautiful wife, Rhiannon, just a wonderful couple. You guys have done so much to help my causes and that, so I thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit more about your Leafs. You're a player, and you hear this, oh, he's good in the room. Is that what Joe Thornton brings to it? Is he just good in the room, or is his presence on the ice a big deal too?
Yeah, I think so, 100%. I think you hear a guy who's good in the room, that's someone you want on your team. But not only that, it's both of those things. When people mention that, it's what he brings on the ice as well. I mean, you look at Joe Thornton; he's an established veteran. He's been a pro for as long as his entire career. He's had success everywhere he's gone. He's a leader, and he's a power forward. He makes the guys around him better. So you couple that with being good in the room, you've got a complete player, and it's why he makes millions of dollars. So
yeah,
big acquisition.
Well, what's ironic is that Jason Spezza's having one of his best years over the last couple. Corey Perry has lifted the Montreal Canadiens up to. Patrick Marleau has not done that quite with the San Jose Sharks, but they have that boat sinking. I think the Shark can't find the bait. The issue that they have there is now Marleau is ready to move. He's actually said he would prefer a trade or would entertain a trade. Man, he would look great in a Leafs jersey if we didn't have Spezza. And I no disrespect to anybody. The fact of the matter is you just can't have too much, carrying too many veterans. So I think the Montreal Canadiens could use another player like that. If Marleau goes, where would you see a guy like with his leadership and his ability to perform still at a very high level at his age? Could you guess at where you think would be a good fit for him?
I think you just said it best. I think the Canadiens, a team who's been struggling like that for a number of years. They've had a bunch of interchanging coaches, or I guess recently, more or less. A guy who you could bounce off Carey Price and who's going to be a leader and kind of help your goalie out. I think Marleau would be great going to Montreal. It would really help them out, give them that veteran presence, someone to steer the ship in the right direction and, get everything going, upwards and trending in the right direction.
Fantastic. Of course, we forgot about Wayne Simmons also. They've got enough savvy veterans in the Leafs lineup. And Val's just popped up a note. He should have stayed in Pittsburgh. And I agree with that. I don't know why he left Pittsburgh. I'm not sure. Obviously, going back to San Jose is a soft spot in him. Brent Burns, who you know well too. What a great teammate to be with. They've got a good, solid team. The problem is 4 players, and I think, Jordan, if you could do this really quickly, and we'll talk about it after. 4 players within the next couple of years are going to hit the age of 40, and they've all got monstrous contracts. I know Erik Karlsson, obviously Brent Burns, who we both love. It could be ugly for the San Jose Sharks if they don't make something happen now, and I just don't see that happening. Marleau, 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points in 30 games. It's got to be tough, and let's close off on this one. Somebody says, I think it's Val saying, Vegas could be a good play for for Marleau. I do not disagree with that. I think he'd fit nicely in that, and he would just have to drive his car across the street. It's not very far of a distance. But I'm going to end it with this. The fact that, a player like Marleau, how long should you hang on? Like, is it time, with 1 goal and 4 assists in 30 games at the National Hockey League level, playing on a team that's not, that's struggling. Thank God he's not in Buffalo, because that's a whole other train wreck. How long is too long? Is he maybe at a time where he should maybe consider, and again, this is nothing personal, and it's not you, you're just, you as a player, a veteran player, understanding what a guy goes through just to play, just to get to the NHL is one thing, to stay there is another, but to stay on at a certain age. Talk to me about that. What is a veteran player like that? What's going through his mind?
I'm really glad you asked me that because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Like, I've watched a lot of my friends retire, people I've grown up and played pro hockey with, and I'm still, holding on to it and enjoying it. I'm 31. I'm waking up now and I'm in a bit of pain in the morning sometimes. But I think to answer your question, at the end of the day, regardless of his point production, I think that comes down to being comfortable in your environment and the opportunity and the role that you're placed in. Look at Jason Spezza, for example. That guy, under Babcock's coaching, wasn't really confident, maybe not shooting the puck as much and wasn't producing nearly as well as he is now, where he's firing on all cylinders. And it seems like he's got a bit of life brought into his game. So when you look at when you should be retiring, I think the biggest question, or when you should hang him up, the biggest question would be, are you still enjoying playing? And are you bringing enough to the table, to be satisfied at the end of the day? I wouldn't necessarily look too much at the points, but more or less what you're bringing to the rink, your attitude, your veteran presence, the intangibles, all that stuff. And then lastly, are you enjoying it?
Yeah, listen, just before we get into Josh Britton, UFAs, Joe Thornton, Dave Krychek, right now at this particular moment, Spezza, 7th oldest player in the National Hockey League at 37. Chara, Thornton, Marlowe are currently the oldest players. And it's, it's a compliment to them. I got to tip my hat off. I played till 41 playing in 3rd division, and I'm like you. Every day I woke up, another body part hurts. Wait till you're 61. Now there's aches on top of the aches that are on top of the aches.
That are aching, sure.
Yeah. But I want to make, on the right-hand side, there's a bunch of comments, so I just want to throw them out there. Robert Wine, of course, one of our great, from Ottawa. So when you're back in Ottawa, I'm going to make sure you hook up with Robert. He's part of the Canada 5, where this was this serious accident that injured 5 Ontonians, and he was one of them. Hans, Garrett Schoafs, our buddy Shoppy, our European correspondent. Hi, in 1 hour, go Sens, go. Do you have any ties to the Sens? Like he obviously Tim Stutzla, who's the German phenom that's over there. I know your wife. It's your wife's parents that are from Ottawa. Am I correct?
They're originally from England, actually.
Okay. Who's in Ottawa? You went up to Ottawa.
We moved to Ottawa because my wife has a large family. She has a cousin who works up there, and she was just looking for a roommate for the summer. And we thought after COVID happened, this would be a great chance to go somewhere and explore somewhere new and meet new people, essentially. So my closest tie to the Sens would be getting drafted there. That was where my NHL draft was.
We were going to go through that, absolutely.
And my agent, believe it or not, told me not to go. He said, listen, you had a really good season and stuff. We've been talking to a lot of teams, but maybe just don't come. And I said, screw that. You know what? I'm going to go. So we drove down as a family, and on the second day I got drafted in the 3rd round, and the rest is history.
Man, that is fantastic. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Just ending it off, Chuck Bassey's coming on. My Flyers are killing me. You know what? Lots of hopes with the Flyers. I'm sure you haven't seen much about it, but, Hart, he was going to carry him to the promised land. Goaltending has always been an issue in Flyer land. Listen, we got to get you in shape there, Chucky. Maybe you can go in that. And finally, here's a great compliment from Paul Rosen. The Rosen Report tomorrow is going to be really exciting. Shane Smith is on. He played for the U.S. national team in para hockey. Paul's going to have a personal one-on-one interview with him at the Rosen Report. That'll be at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Do not miss it. But Paul's saying, one of my favorite guys, great teammate. He's talking about you. He had an opportunity to coach you over there, so he really likes what you bring to the table. And as could I say that also. You're just one of those guys, you give everything and you leave nothing for granted. You are one of those players that a coach just loves to have around. Listen, let's talk a little bit about your career then. Talk to us about that draft day, because that's really interesting, because I've heard a couple of guys tell us, my agent said, you're not going anywhere, so stay out of it type idea, which I find ridiculous. You'd even make that statement. Don't go. You have no chance. Even there's a couple of players like Brent Burns was that. He didn't even have the proper suit, and he got called because his agent didn't think he was going, and look what happened to him. Talk to us about that. Obviously, the good thing is that you did go. How mad would you have been if you didn't?
Yeah, I would have definitely been disappointed. And the icing on the cake was that I got to have a really cool draft experience. I got to go up onto the podium. I got to have a full TV interview. All my friends back home were watching. And I got to go down onto the floor and meet Brian Burke and shake his hand at the table. So, looking back on it, the one thing I would say to any young kids watching out there is, your agent is only doing, part of the job for you. And he may be giving you the best advice, but he may also have, other interests elsewhere with the other people that he's dealing with. So not everything your agent says is 100% the best advice for you to listen to. And I think that's bodes well into talking about taking control of your own career, right? It's not just about what your agent's doing. It's the whole total package of being in charge of everything yourself and making your own decisions. And, I'm really glad that we decided to bite the bullet and drive 6 hours and go up there. And, I got to sit in the stands with my parents, get drafted and have that really cool experience, which was a lot of fun. So I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, no question. Fantastic. Third round, obviously, what a great opportunity for you. You played in Kingston, of course, in the OHL. You played in Barrie. So you had an opportunity to play in some pretty cool places, right? Plymouth. And then off to the AHL East Coast League. You bounced around a little bit and never quite had the chance to play in the National Hockey League. But I can tell you, seeing you play over in Australia with us, and then watching you in Germany too, you're a heck of a player. I love your style. You're gritty. You're a guy that's got sweet hands. So you've got it all, buddy. So I know that you're over now, obviously in Sweden, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in 1 second. Talk to us about being drafted, not quite getting to that highest level, but certainly the AHL is very quality career. The East Coast League again, and you move from city to city. And I use this adage. It comes from Paul Stewart. My skates were my passport to the world, and that certainly bodes well for you because you also played in Slovakia. You played obviously in Germany in Deggendorf, in a city that I played at, which was fantastic. We actually met each other there, and now of course you're in Sweden. Talk to us a little bit about that journey from going from obviously being drafted at AHL East Coast League and then making that decision to travel over to Europe.
I love, firstly, that saying, your skates are your passport, because it's true. I may not necessarily not have made the NHL, but hockey has afforded me an incredible opportunity to travel the world, meet an incredibly vast and diverse group of people. Looking at my professional career, I think one of my regrets, looking back on it, like I was just talking about, being in charge of your own career, is I think I left a little too much up to my agency to handle my own career professionally. And looking back on it, I think my first 2 years pro, I didn't really play a lot. I wasn't in the best of a developing situation for myself to really give myself the opportunity to get to the National League. So looking back on that, I think, I could have taken a little more ownership of my career myself. And I just touched on meeting Brian Burke, at the draft. And right after I got drafted, Burke ended up, I think, leaving and going to maybe Vancouver or Calgary. I'm not sure which team it was, but he was the guy who was in my corner, and he was the guy who I think drafted me and really liked me. And when he left, it was kind of me in the organization, and no one was really in my corner. So I was working kind of against the grain the entire 3 years of my first entry-level contract. And then from there, it's only an uphill battle. I mean, the minors, you really have to be a standout player. You really have to have someone who's in your court. You really have to have someone who believes in you to really make that jump to be even just a regular American League guy. So
yeah. Well, so think about that. Burke had an eye truculence. You're that type of player. You've got grit to you. Here you are playing for Team Canada over in our Ice Hockey Classic. I think, you were one of the stars, no question. But I think what's important, too, is that he actually, if you don't I think he drafted the Sedin brothers in Vancouver. So you're in good company. Berkey saw something in you, bud. So listen, we can all look back. I always joke around with Wayne Cowley, and I bug him, and I said, how many minutes you play in the National Hockey League? You only had 57, and then he always has to say, because I keep bugging him, when you go and talk to Wayne Cowley, ask him how many games he played. And he says, 57 minutes in the National Hockey League, but 57 more than Goulet did. And so it's a great compliment to have had that honor. Not everybody gets to be in your shoes, and you are still at 31 playing in the game that you love. And there was a great comment that just came up here. From Shoppy. Hi, Josh. I have a question. Only profis play in the third division in Sweden. Is the league better than the DEL2? So you played in Degerndorf, and this is no discredit to anybody. You played, at your experience right now, can you compare? Because everybody asks me, well, what's third division ice hockey in Germany? The third division ice hockey I played in is now the DEL2. Like it would be about that same level because we had more imports and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So I always kind of, because people say, you scored all those goals in third, like what is it, junior C? No, DL2 is a pretty good league. And, as an import, you got to put numbers up or you're going home. So talk to us a little bit about the difference between the Swedish league and the DL2.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right with that. Like, you get, the second league in Germany, that's a good hockey league. You got guys who are fighting for top league spots there. And like you just said also that, as an import, you need to be bringing something to the table, whether it's points or, being physical, being an IQ kind of guy. I think, the biggest difference, third league hockey in Sweden is actually very good. I've been incredibly impressed with the pace of play here. I would say it's on par with, ECHL American League speed. The one thing that I would say is missing is just the playmaking and the IQ. And that comes down to the hockey being so fast. You're on the big ice. Every guy and every practice that I've been a part of is going 100 miles an hour at all times. So being a guy who's 31 now, that takes a bit of an adjustment too. I like to pick my spots, especially in morning skate when your coach is expecting you to go 120 miles per hour. For me at 31, a morning skate is more, getting warmed up, getting loose, getting my feels so that I can be ready for the game. But if you want to talk about third league hockey in Sweden, it's definitely good hockey. You can still make decent money. Very livable money, and also the pace of the play is what surprised me the most, I would say.
Hey, could you tell us a little bit about obviously are their styles different? We all see the Swedes, they're just absolutely incredibly skilled, whereas the Germans have a little bit more of the truculence. Now that's changing, of course, with Tim Stützle, and what Leon Draisaitl is doing is just absolutely setting the German. And that has a lot to do with Franz Reindl and the DB. They've actually found a way of developing players, and they're now actually working on more skill development. Do you see that being a difference that Sweden, when you got there, they play that game called Bandy, where I think they play on a, Lake Ontario. It's that big of a rink. It's, a couple of football fields wide. Do you see that? Do you see that Sweden really develops their young kids, whether they're boys or girls, with skill development?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I see that 100%. And I think just stylistically, if you look at the way the game is played in Sweden, it's on a very large ice sheet, played very fast and structured. We're in the third league here, and we do a lot of video stuff that we may not have done in the second league in Germany as much or anything. So it's very prepared. It's very fast. Everyone's small, speedy, in shape, flying 100% at all times. But the biggest challenge, and I think the one thing that I've noticed with Swedish hockey, is everyone protects the house. And it creates a bit of a log jam there. Hey,
Josh, if you don't mind, what is the house? Tell us what the house is.
The house is basically from the net out to the two dots on each side, and then basically to the top of the circle. So you can almost kind of draw like a home plate. And that's kind of like the area your coaches are preaching about protecting. And the Swedes do it flawlessly. which changes the atmosphere and the style of the game. It makes it a lot more challenging to get those shots from the slot in tight. All of those goals that are kind of greasy goals, you're not seeing too many of those. The one thing I have noticed is they use the back of the net a lot. So you'll rim a puck and throw it hard to escape around the other side of the net, and then maybe make a quick shot to the point for a tip. There's been a lot of tip goals in this league just because there's so many guys in the middle of the house and they're protecting it at all costs. That it's been interesting, and it's been a bit of a challenge for me to learn how to play different styles of games. If you go back to North America, I mean, you would not see that nearly as much, and I would find that more often than not, those guys in North America are making more tactical mistakes, I guess, than the Swedes here. So. Yeah.
Well, I think so. I also want to ask you about the fact that I was just setting the house up for Val and Jordan, because they're our executive producer and our assistant producer. They've probably never heard that terminology, but me being over in Europe, I heard it a lot. So I just wanted to clarify that for our viewers also. What I want to ask you now, before we get into a couple other things about living in Sweden, what about you always hear it, of course, Don Cherry's that, he's a European, he's got no balls and all that sort of stuff. Pardon my French. I know there'll be a disclaimer in a second. And I kept hearing that. And me as an import, I was never tough. What's tough? Let me quantify that. Tough means two things. One, it's that rough and tough, fight them out, or tough being an import, as you would know, and what I went through, because I wasn't a fighter. I was tough because I was getting the garbage kicked out of me every single game because they went after the imports, right? A lot of teams. If you shut them down, you shut down most of the offense, usually in the third division in Germany. What is the toughness of the game there for you? Is it, it's not bone crushing hits, or is there fighting, or is it more, again, the flow, a lot of great flow, like watching a European game over top and watch the play develop on that large ice surface? It's nothing like it in North America.
Yeah, it's really true. They definitely have a strategy to their game. And I would say, you are going to find guys in Europe that have toughness. They may not necessarily have been bred the same as Canadians in the sense of toughness with fighting. And that's partially due to the fact that, when I first got here, the first day my coach pulled me into the office and said, listen, you can't fight in this league. There's no fighting. There's no tolerance for it. If you get a fighting major, you'll be suspended. And if it happens twice, they may consider you kicking you out of the league. I think there's a way of playing tough. I think that's something that I bring to my game and why I've been able to play for so long. There's not necessarily just fighting, but playing tough and being able to take, a beating or, take a lot, essentially. Brings that toughness to the forefront. And if you're a guy who can do that, you're going to be able to play for a long time. Having said that, that comes at a price. And we've seen that too. So.
Well, that's a great answer. And Shoppy, who's our European correspondent, is thanking you for differentiating it, because, they hear it too. Who's got the better? Is the DL better? And all that sort of stuff. Who cares about the comparisons? Once you're there, you just have to deal with what's set your way, of course, and you've adapted to do that. Let's talk a little bit about your living in Vimmerby, playing for the Tigers. It's a difference, right? People don't realize it's not just jumping on a plane and going and playing. Obviously your wife is over there, Rihanna. When I had my fiance at the time, when I went there first time, she absolutely hated it. And it created a lot of issues for me. Specifically, it was in the late 80s in Germany, and she just did not enjoy it. Very chauvinistic type. It was all about ice hockey. The girls didn't really matter, focus on the game and that. And she just felt really left alone. I know it's changed a little bit over there now, but I think it's important to understand that it's not just picking up your skates, flying over there, playing, and then coming home for the summer and, repeat. Talk to us a little bit about first that transition of going from, you say, a small ice surface to a big ice surface to 2-a-day practices to maybe only playing 2 times a week versus, North America, we're usually 3 or 4 times a week. You're in the weight room, you're in a sauna, you're jumping in snow. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, firstly, I love the saunas. They have these things over here called wellness spas, and you can go for 14 euros, obviously COVID providing, and you could have just the most relaxing day with 4 or 5 different saunas. It's really incredible. I'm surprised it hasn't caught on in Canada. But yeah, you've made a lot of really interesting points there. You're 100% right. It's not just about getting on a plane. There's so many variables, I think, that are going to challenge people coming over to Europe the first time. I'm very fortunate to have an amazing, lovely wife. She has a great head on her shoulders, and she loves the traveling aspect. I think, when I come to her and I say, hey, we have a new opportunity to go to this country, her immediate response is to be excited and, to get happy about going and exploring a new area. And that entails being the guy in the grocery store who's got his phone with the Google Translate translating ingredients on food to make sure, we're buying the right things, and it's different phone chargers, meeting people who don't speak the same language as you, and people trying to maybe take advantage of you because they know you're not from the country that they are from. So there's so many variables that come into it, and it's helped us grow up, and it's been enjoyable, maybe a little stressful at times, especially at the start. My first year overseas was in Slovakia, and that was probably the biggest culture shock I've had. But at the same time, I learned so much from that year, and we won a championship that season, so it was all worth it. And, the fact that we've done this now 3 or 4 times has made the transition so much easier because we now know what to expect. And would you recommend a player that maybe is struggling a little bit down in the East Coast League or whatever, and there's no chance to move up? Would you recommend them going over and playing in Europe? I would 100% recommend every player to get overseas, not only for the hockey aspect, because a lot of times in North America, you just get set in roles, right? And you'll often see players just fizzle out. Yeah, we know this guy's an incredible player, but he's just not living up to his potential, or he's not producing. And especially the smaller guys, I'm 6'5". I have a bit harder time sometimes getting jobs over here because they don't want the 6'5" guy. They want the small, speedy, point-producing guys. But this European hockey can definitely rejuvenate your career. It can give you a new perspective on culture, life, experiencing different cultures, seeing different parts of the world that you may never have gotten to do before, and you get paid to do it. So it's a pretty win-win situation if those players can be open to a little bit of change, maybe being open to not being the guy who speaks the language and being the foreigner in the room. I've had, guys, Russians or whatever, come over to my North American teams, and now I understand what that guy has felt like through his experience in North America. So,
yeah. Well, and I went over at a time where I wasn't in I don't have your accolades getting drafted or playing in the East Coast League or the AHL, and I got a chance to go over there. I got to admit, I took a gamble, and it's the best thing I ever did. And that was at a skill level where, people were kind of questioning, is he good enough? And I got lucky. Hey, listen, a great question coming in here from Craig Campbell. Craig Campbell, the Australian Craig Campbell. This is the Craig Campbell from the Hockey Hall of Fame. You must be enjoying playing in Sweden. What an opportunity. You've worn many different sweater numbers. That's no slight. And you had a lot of suitcases. Good. What number do you prefer? And is there a reason for any particular number? Great question.
Excellent question. Yeah. It's unfortunate because some teams you go to, you don't necessarily get to pick your number. I've been lucky enough to have been able to pick mine for most of my career. And I think, the number, I've always tried to stick with numbers that were the same. So in Kingston, I was 22. When I was at Ducks camp, it would have been 77. I had 55 for a while. But the one that stuck with me the most was 11. And I don't know why. Maybe it's superstitious or lucky number 11. I'm not sure. But There's something that looks good about two ones next to each other that I really enjoyed, and it always brought me good luck. Not that I'm superstitious, but I really enjoyed 11.
Fantastic. Hey, listen, Matthew Meisner, I just want to ask, Matthew, are you in South America? Because I've seen you on several times here. I'm definitely going to share this interview all over South America. Great information for guys who are dreaming of getting in the big stage. So, Matthew, let us know where you're located, because I've seen you on several of our shows. Here's a great picture. This just sums it up. Regardless if you're winning the Stanley Cup, look at that. What a great looking picture.
That just brings back so many great feelings. You know, like winning a championship, it doesn't matter at what level. Winning in any league requires something special to happen. You know, you have to have a group of guys come together. And, you know, even looking at this photo, people may just see like the happiness here, but there was a point in this series where we were up 3-0, and the team came back and won the next 3 games in a row. And we went to Game 7 in their arena, and the group chat all evening, guys were just pouring their hearts into the group chat saying, hey guys, like this is our one opportunity. Let's not let this slip away. We had such a special group of guys. We had 5 or 6 imports, you know, just an incredible team and memories that I'll have forever, which, you know, is special.
Well, listen, this is unbelievable. We have people from Australia, New Zealand, Germany, all over the world. And Matthew, thank you for joining us from Argentina. I'm not even going to take a shot at that first part. Uicia? How would you say that? Argentina. Uicia, I think. Fantastic. Thank you, Matthew, for bringing that out. And listen, of course, one of the other things, Paul Rosen, here, look at this. He coaches all over, especially my friends in Ecuador. Who would have thought there'd be ice hockey in Ecuador? But who would have thought there'd be ice hockey in Australia, where you came and were a star for us? And the question comes, why did you wear 13? I think there's a picture of you again coming up here. And talk to us a little. I tried to get Paul on, Paul Rosen, just to come up and say hello. Unfortunately, he was unable to. He says you're one of his favorites. And Craig Campbell from Adelaide, Australia, of course. He's saying hello. I wish he would have been on here. Maybe he forgot all about it, but he's just a big Josh Britton fan. There you are, number 13. Talk to us a little bit about that experience.
Oh, I mean, first of all, I can't thank you enough. The international hockey over there in Australia was incredible. You put on such a great event, and it was so much fun. I've been fortunate enough to go twice, and I would say to anyone who's ever thought about doing it, they should. It's you know, a chance for you to play hockey, like you said, in a region that isn't necessarily known for its ice hockey. And not only that, the reception for it is just incredible. I mean, we had arenas, Rod Laver Arena sold out. You know, people just love ice hockey there, and yeah, that picture says it all. Like the atmosphere there was wild. Everyone was just having fun. We were able to do something for a great cause, to give back as well. And, you know, hopefully I'll be fortunate enough to go again.
You're on the list, kid. June 2022, outdoors in Queenstown. Hey, listen, that game there, you held a record. All of you held a record. 18,000 people filled the Kudos Arena. You're one of only a few. It may never happen again, because the Rod Laver Arena is a very iconic facility. Rod Laver Arena, we had an ice hockey match there, and you were part of that great stuff. Hey, listen, I want to get into, obviously, bringing Val up here for a few minutes. Tell us a little bit about when you were over traveling to a country that really wasn't a hockey, they weren't crazy about ice hockey yet. It's a very cliche sport, but yet you've traveled to many countries that just love their hockey. What was in Australia, outside of the hockey, what was the one thing you said, oh my God, I'm really here?
Oh, that's a great question.
Kiss the koala.
I think the kangaroos. I think the kangaroos really threw me for a loop, because I had an idea in my mind of what a kangaroo was. And then until you actually see one, and how they sit on their tail, and how dense their tail is, and how muscular some certain species of kangaroo are, I mean, it's really an eye-opening experience to make you realize, wow, I'm definitely in a different part of the world. They do things differently over here. So that, I mean, besides that and the beautiful weather and, the landscape in Australia is incredible. We were fortunate enough to go to 5-6 different cities, the Gold Coast being one of them, which was something I think everyone should experience in their life.
Amazing.
Yeah, just an amazing and an incredible experience all around.
All right, Matthew's telling us how to say that. I think it says Ushuaia, Argentina. All right, we're bringing up Val. We got a little bit of fun. Usually this is held to Friday, but because we got Josh Britton and you travel in the world, we felt it would be really cool to do the old, hey, trade him, sign him, or get rid of him. Let's get to it. Come visit. Oh, look at this, Josh. We're going to go down. Hey, don't forget, I'm not a bad little player myself here. Let's see this. Come visit Pond Hockey Heaven, Josh. Show these kids what hockey is all about. Practice your Spanish. We're working on it in Argentina. All right, let's pull it up, kid.
It's pronounced Ushuaia.
Yeah, of course you do that to me.
No, I had to look it up. No, I had to look it up. That's all I know.
Ushuaia. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us around the world. That's fantastic. Of course, Craig Campbell all the way from Adelaide, Australia. Sam, Adelaide, Australia.
Right, that's Craig Campbell.
Yeah, it's Craig Campbell's good. He's doing well. All right, listen, let's get into it. Trade him, resign him, release him.
Hey, Josh, great to see you again.
Good to see you, man.
We talked about this whole scenario prior to the show and kind of thing. So we're going to start off with two different scenarios. We'll start off with Carrie, and then we'll you can take the same question, or we have a different question for you. Okay.
All right, here we go.
And there's no wrong answer. I can put up the disclaimer. It says we're just having fun, regardless of what it is. Okay.
That's not true. I win every one so far, so that's not. Let's keep the competitive nature going. All right, here we go.
We'll let you in, Carrie.
Yeah, we'll let you in. So, Josh, when we were talking prior to the show earlier this afternoon, you made comment on the Datsuk and the Lindstrom jersey behind me, right? So, Carrie, here's the question to you: Lindstrom, Jake Allen, or Datsuk? Who do you trade, re-sign, and release?
All right. Yeah, and we're suggesting that they could still play at this time, right? Because
correct.
Datsuk's still playing with David Booth, actually, over in China or Russia somewhere.
Yep.
All right. Okay, trade him, because he only opened the gate.
Right, I'm done.
Oh, you go first then. You go.
Ahead, Josh.
All right.
Here we go, Josh.
So I think it only makes sense that you would trade Nick Lindstrom, because the return that you would get off of Nick Lindstrom would be legendary. Guy's a Hall of Famer. He's bringing in millions of dollars. I mean, as steady a player as you're going to find. So I'm gonna trade Lindstrom.
Okay.
I'm gonna re-sign number 13, Pavel Datsuk.
Good choice.
Because you're talking about one of the best two-way players to play the game. He makes every single person he plays with better. He goes both ways, up and down the ice, offense, defense, and he hits. He's the magic man. He's got silky mitts. So I'm going to re-sign Pavel Datsuk. And lastly, I'm going to throw away Jake Allen. Because who can't get a hot goalie? You can always trade for a goalie at any given point. So that's my 3 right there.
That's perfect.
Go out there. Okay, everybody, just realize that Jake Allen and Josh know each other. They played together on a team, so that teammanship, it goes out the door right now. All right, so here we go. Trade them. I know you're going to love this one. I'm going to trade Datsuk. And the reason is exactly what you said about Lindstrom. I'm going to get a whole boatload. Yeah. I think, honestly, if I traded Datsuk at his prime, I probably would get the Ottawa Senators and the Dallas Stars in return, because he was, no question, the most unbelievable player. His silky mitts are sick.
The magician, yep.
Nasty.
WTF. All right, listen, so that's that. Resign him. I know you guys are going to find this one crazy. I would resign Allen. And the reason is Montreal keep him there because, he fits in nicely. I think Montreal is going to go a little bit deeper, having Carey Price spending some time on the bench watching and being prepared for the playoffs like he was last year. And I would release Lindstrom because if you guys are following the National Hockey League this year, the NHL Winnipeg Jets are really suffering on defense. So I would release him so that we could come in and grab him and put him on the Winnipeg Jets. And that, my friends, is the Stanley Cup. And that is why I'm going to be the GM of the year, because look at that. I did it.
Well, anybody can be the GM of the year if Lindstrom's available in the market.
All right, buddy. Hey, Josh, we can't thank you enough for taking some time out. We're going to stay involved with you. We're going to follow how you're doing through the playoffs. Please stay involved with us. You are on the list, of course, to come with us to the Ice Hockey Classic because not only were you a great player, but you're just a true ambassador to the sport and just a hell of a nice guy. Love to Rihanna.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate everything you do and keep up the great work.
Go Tigers, go!
All the best, Josh. Continued success.
See you later.
Cheers, boys. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, man.
Take care. Stay safe.
Great guy.
Hey, Josh, what do you think? Jordan, I mean, what a great interview.
You're on mute,
that kid is, I love that guy.
Yeah, no, it was a fun interview. It was great. It was great to listen to him.
Hey, you know what? Now we're starting. We got to tell people, Matthew, thank you all the way from Argentina. We've had people from Kenya. I want to start making a list of who we've touched around the world. That's pretty cool. Hey, listen, I've got to go on a call to Australia. As you guys know, I'm working on a big project there, so I have to run. I want to thank you, Jordan, for doing that and help me on the right-hand side, doing a great job. I think Josh just shows how great this show can become because we're not just talking to NHLers. What a great comment he talked about. The agent saying maybe not go to his draft. Could you just imagine him not being there and he getting called out? What an experience that is. So I thank you guys for giving suggestions. Don't forget, tomorrow, I made a mistake today on the show. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, it is Shane Smith. And Shane Smith did not play for the USA team. I misunderstood. He's the young boy that helped Paul choose to play sledge hockey. He has no legs and only one arm and is a wheelchair rugby player for Team Canada and got him ready for the Summer Olympics. So I apologize for that. And finally, just before we leave, I think Chuck has reminded me, and we're going to be talking about this in full on Friday. It is a talk with Paul Stewart. What went on last night, guys, obviously we've heard this. Chuck has mentioned the Team Peel situation. We're going to talk that in full with Paul Stewart. The open mic and the trouble, we won't discuss it right now. We will discuss it on Friday. I have been in that position listening to a referee talk to me about how there was going to be a payback, which honestly in the National Hockey League, it is a black spot and certainly needed his dismissal, and he was dismissed. All right, guys. Signing off. Gouche Live right here. Don't forget, brought to you by the good people of the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And, of course, we're Paul B. tomorrow, Paramount Sports Management for the Rosen Report.
Have a good night, everyone.
See you guys.
You've been listening to Gouche Live with your host, Kerry Goulet.